the worst earthquake to hit Japan since the 1940s. 1,000 more people are missing, still buried under what's left of the port city of Kobe. The earthquake had not been predicted and seems to have caught the Japanese unprepared. It measured 7.2 on the Richter scale and struck just before dawn this morning. The epicenter was just under the sparsely populated island of Awaji. Most of the casualties were in Kobe, 20 miles to the north. Much of the city has been on fire as a new dawn is about to break there. Osaka, Japan's second city, and Kyoto, the old imperial capital, were also badly hit.
Across the ravaged suburbs, a sea of flame advances. Kobe tonight is a city of nightmare visions. No past experience of war or natural disaster can prepare one for the sheer scale of this tragedy. The man-made world has been made to seem pathetically vulnerable. The wind is helping to spread the fires. For the emergency services who've been battling to save lives all day, the situation is becoming desperate. The fire consumes and keeps moving. The first tremors came before dawn. Within minutes, the earth began to heave, sending powerful shocks through the densely populated suburbs. Although Japan is used to earthquakes, nobody expected the disaster to happen here or with so much force. As the dawn became morning, vast acres were reduced to rubble in the worst earthquake to hit Japan since 1946. The emergency services began their searches in hope. All too often, they were forced to abandon their efforts, the dead and the injured lost beneath the broken buildings. An American businessman watched his hotel room fall apart.
All the electricity, of course, went off, and my TV in my room flew maybe 3 or 4 feet towards my bed. My bed moved 4 feet. The building next to ours fell down on top of a car, almost totally. The whole house must have picked up and moved about 5 feet.
Among the first victims were people trapped on the freeways that link Kobe and Osaka. Roads opened up and swallowed cars and trucks. The roads that are the pride of Japanese industry snapped like dry twigs.
Hundreds of the victims died in their beds, awoken by the tremors but crushed before they could escape. It was the older houses, and there are many of them in Kobe and Osaka, which bore the brunt of the earthquake. Many trains were derailed, but these carriages were stopped just in time to escape, like this bus whose passengers dangled a few feet from death. As messages of condolence flooded in from world leaders, Japan's Prime Minister gave his first reaction to the earthquake.
This is the worst earthquake since the Great Kanto earthquake, and the government will do everything it can to help.
Tonight, police have warned people to stay away from this area because of the danger of aftershocks, but they needn't have worried about people venturing out. They're simply too scared. Japan is tonight in a state of mourning and of shock. A country which is one of the most technologically advanced in the world has found out yet again just how vulnerable it is to natural disaster. Fergal Keane, BBC News, Kobe.
Scientists are struggling to find ways to predict when an earthquake will happen and how severe it will be. Earthquakes frequently occur in Japan, but they're usually mild earth tremors causing little damage. Japan is said to lead the world in measures to protect its people and its cities, but the effectiveness of its approach is now being questioned.
The shock waves from the earthquake were detected round the world. At the British Geological Survey in Edinburgh, the seismograph left little doubt that this was a major quake. The death toll was high because the quake was near the surface, the area was so populated, and because many of the buildings were old. But it could have been worse. The modern buildings there were built to be earthquake-proof, and that saved many lives. The high-rise buildings, like this hotel, by and large survived. Many are fitted with shock absorbers. They sway, but they don't fall apart. Older, rigid buildings, subjected to the same shock, collapse. But with the motorways, it was a different story.
The most worrying aspect is the expressways that fell over sideways. It's reassuring to see major buildings standing up well. Most of the modern buildings appeared to have performed well. But I think the authorities will need to look carefully at the regulations surrounding the design and construction of those expressways.